projections about growth and those types of things. So in answer to your question, Sakina, we need the transition to be just, and it must be managed such that the cost and are not only looked at from an environmental point of view. It's not good to move from a strict economic to an environmental. We actually need the triple bottom line approach.
Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen,
the social, the economic,
the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly,
they're being just and justice.
The Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Deputy President.
Listening to Engama, I mentioned now that financial sector, banks are making a decision not to invest in companies that want to use fossil fuels. So now you find that banks are now being used to almost swindle and suffocate the country into a position where you go into renewables. But then the bigger question that should be asking ourselves is the technology on renewable energy, where does it come from? Where are we supposed to procure this technology? Because certainly we are not building it. So who is benefiting additionally?
I think the issues that are being raised now will be very relevant when the president speaks, because the president will start off addressing obviously the state of this nation, South Africa, but he'll also then start speaking about how we want to be contributing in the African continent. There's a continental free trade agreement that's ongoing, and then he'll speak about our position in the global economy as well as our role, in terms of security within the United Nations, etc. What you're bringing now is something that maybe as South Africans we do not think about when we expect unemployment to be solved, inequality to be solved, poverty to be solved, is that we actually operate, or the president has to make decisions with his government. Where is this technology? World Cup. Not just the structure to that train. So we have some government
hurdle. Up there.
The man of the hour. Rather as the I think she's really the one about Tandi Modise. It's not a long week anymore. So the president there with the Speaker of the National Assembly, Tandi Modise, and of course, as we said, the guards of honor, and Parliament has scaled down in terms of austerity measures in the festivities here during the State of the Nation address. They have significantly cut down on the people that they invited this year. As we see the president making his way up to the National Assembly chamber, and what what will happen there is, of course, we will see in a short while the 21-gun salute, and that will coincide, of course, with also the start of the national anthem. But we'll tell you more about it as the President and Speaker there make their way up to the front of the chamber.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, President of the Republic of South Africa,
There will now be a moment for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Please be seated. Honorable members, the President has called for this joint sitting.
On a point of order, Speaker.
Honorable Malema, what is your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, we have a murderer in the house. We have a man who's got blood of innocent people in this house, which is supposed to represent the wills of our people. And therefore, it is incorrect for you to have extended an invitation to de Klerk, because de Klerk is a murderer. De Klerk has got blood on his hands. The people of Buipatung are turning in their graves. And de Klerk said that apartheid was not crime against humanity. It's an unrepentant apologist of apartheid who is not willing to accept that apartheid was crime against humanity. And therefore, it is an insult to those who died and tortured in Flag Plus under the instructions of de Klerk, to have de Klerk sitting in a democratic parliament. And I therefore suggest, Honorable Speaker, that we please request de Klerk to leave this house, because it doesn't belong to this house.
Honorable Malem, have you finished?
So my submission, Speaker, is that please, for us to have peaceful proceedings, we should ask the commander of Flag Plus, the apartheid apologist, a man with blood on his hands, to leave this parliament because he does not belong here. That's my submission, Speaker.
Thank you, sir. Order, members. Honorable Malema, I wish to rule on the submission you have made. This sitting has been called for one item and one item only, to give the President the space to address the nation. It is convention that all the presidents, the former presidents who are still alive, are invited to this sitting. The former president, de Klerk, has been invited because of that. I therefore cannot sustain the submission you have made, and therefore rule it out of order.
Honorable Speaker,
Honorable,
the meeting is called for a special purpose.
Honorable Floyd Shibambo, I have not recognized
Will
you.
you please recognize me?
What are you standing on?
On a point of order, 14S.
What is your point of order?
Point of order is that the rules of the joint sitting apply even when the of national address. That is number one. You can't recognize de Klerk as the president of what? Who voted for him? Are you saying this parliament, a democratic elected parliament, must recognize a white-only president who was elected by a criminal system of apartheid?
Honorable
must acknowledge him
Shibambo.
as such.
Honorable Shibambo.
It cannot be correct.
Honorable Shibambo, yes, you are right. The joint rules apply to this sitting. Order. 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 You are right. The rules apply. And the rules apply, and those rules have never been questioned. History of this country is there for everybody. We recognized that there was an apartheid system. We also recognized that it was a system that brought us all into this house. And therefore, that submission, that point of order is not sustained.
Speaker. Speaker.
What are you standing on?
On a point of order.
What is your point of order?
Just accept that you as the presiding officers, you made a mistake by inviting de Klerk. So de Klerk must go. Like you've been making mistakes.
Please take your seat. We have not made any...
Can you ask that
Please take your seat, honorable member. We have not made any mistake. Take your seat.
Honorable Speaker, you are talking about history. What I'm telling you is not history.
Honorable
De Klerk
Malema,
had
I
an
did not
interview.
recognize you. Please take your seat.
De Klerk had an interview last week.
Honorable Malema, I
and
did
said
not
apartheid
recognize
was
you.
not
Please
wrong.
take your seat.
On a point of order, Speaker.
What is your point of order?
Speaker, you just said yourself that it was apartheid. Who presided over apartheid? De Klerk. And just last week, he said apartheid was not crime against humanity. So we were humans enough to be killed by apartheid system, and the person who presided over that system must come and be seated here
Honorable
with us
Mente.
after killing our forefathers,
Honorable Mente.
after killing our brothers and masters
Honorable
and sisters.
Mente, please take your seat.
No.
You are taking your seat.
On a point of order, Speaker.
Honorable members, are we going to go on and on and on the matter of the presence of former President de Klerk?
Speaker.
May I then tell this House
Speaker.
that the presence of former President de Klerk in this House is proper because we have done it in terms of the rules. We have always been open about the former presidents and former leaders of this House, and therefore, delaying the business of this House tonight on the matter of former President de Klerk is not going to help us. So may I suggest that I will not take any further points of orders on this matter.
Speaker.
Honorable Ndlozi, if you address me on a different point, not on the matter of former President de
I'm
Klerk.
afraid, Speaker, you have a constitutional obligation to respect the rules. You do not make them as you go. There is no such a rule that you are anticipating what I'm going to stand on and rule on it in anticipation. That's number one. You are a commander of Mkhonto Wesizwe. You ANC members sitting here, you taught us, you said we must reconcile with these people because they accept the mistakes that they have made. That is history. That's okay. We're not talking about history. We're talking about last week. De Klerk takes platform in front of the whole world and says apartheid was not a crime against humanity. You must be ashamed you are sitting here clapping hands as ANC people. You must be ashamed.
Honorable
no one is
Ndlozi, you're
even
addressing
raising
us. Yeah.
Speaker, no one is even raising a substantial argument in relation to what we are raising. You are busy clapping hands.
Honorable Ndlozi.
De Klerk is an apartheid apologist, not in 1990,
Honorable Ndlozi.
1994.
My ruling stands.
Yesterday.
Take your seat. I am very, very clear and simple. If you are standing up on any point, it is not on the point of the former president of this country. I am not going to go on and on the matter of former President de Klerk.
Speaker, I'm willing to accept that the ANC is defending de Klerk in this House. And South Africans should see the ANC for what it is. It defended de Klerk. They are clapping hands for de Klerk in defense of a murderer. De Klerk remains a murderer.
Honorable Malema, take your seat.
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, please do not stand before you are recognized. Honorable Mulder, you are recognized.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are not going to have a debate on the past tonight. But.
Order. Order. Order.
Honorable Speaker.
Order. Honorable members of the EFF, you will respect anybody who's on the floor of this House.
Honorable Speaker, I know
you will respect any speaker who is on the floor of this House, because when you stood, people allowed you to say your piece. Honorable Mulder, please continue.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Honorable Speaker, we should just be technically and legally and constitutionally correct and should deal with the real facts. What the honorable members of the EFF don't know, it seems, is that in 1994 there was an election where all South Africans participated, and in that election, Mr. de Klerk was elected one of the deputy presidents of South Africa. And he served
You are protect, Honorable
ma'am.
Mulder.
He served as a member of parliament after 1994 as a deputy president of South Africa. So the president that you have set is the correct one, and I suggest that we proceed.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson of the National House of Provinces, Your Excellency, our President, honorable members, I was wondering, Honorable Speaker, whether we can have our say. And the only way in which we can have our say is to put the matter to the vote so that all of us can have a say on the matter. Then we can all have a say on the matter, because we all want to have a say on the matter.
Speaker, I want to second the motion that we vote on the clerk. Let's vote and see who's going to vote for the clerk to sit in this house. Today, we'll know who was a spy. The spies are going to be exposed.
Order.
Let's vote.
Honorable members, I have not yet responded to Honorable Buthelezi. Order. Order. Honorable members, order. Honorable members, I had made a ruling on the matter. I made a ruling on the matter. I said that any hand that comes up is not going to be speaking again on Honorable de Klerk. So I do not know what we will be voting about. I made a ruling on this matter.
Honorable Speaker, I'm standing in terms of joint rules of both the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. There's a new proposal on the floor that says, let us vote on whether the clerk and Medra must be here or not. So we're seconding that motion. No one has opposed it. And motions can be raised in a joint sitting. So let us vote on whether the clerk stays here or not. It's as simple as that.
Thank you. Can I take you back to the rules, the joint rules? Rule 13.2 says, no vote or decision may be taken by or in a joint sitting. I made a ruling on that matter. That matter is closed.
Honourable Speaker. Speaker.
Honourable Mazon.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker of the National Council of Provinces, I would like to rise on point 14S of the joint rules. In terms of our constitutional right, everyone in this House has the right to hear the President deliver the State of the Nation, and as such, I would like the Democratic Alliance's constitutional right to be upheld, and we would like to proceed with the matter of hearing the State of the Nation address from the President.
Honourable members, I agree with the Honourable Member. There is one item on the agenda. It is that the President addresses the House and the nation. Can we proceed with the business of this House? The Honourable, do you still want, you are fine. Can we proceed with the business of this House? Thank you very much. Honourable members, we have been called into this joint sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces in terms of Section 84(2)(d) of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, read with Joint Rule 7.1a in order to let the President deliver his State of the Nation address to Parliament. I shall now call upon the President to address the joint sitting.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Thandi Modise, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces.
On a point of order, Speaker. On a point of order, Speaker.
What's the point of order?
Can the President please sit down? I'm following the rules,
What's
Speaker.
the point of order?
Can we follow the rules?
What's the point of order?
Can we follow the rules? According to Rule 14C, read alongside 14S. If you read them now, you will realize that President must sit down before I raise the point of order. Please sit down, President. We're going to help you run this parliament. Sit down, President. Follow the rules. We're going to help you. You want to follow the rules and sit down.
Can you find out what is the point of order?
Well, the point of order, Speaker, is that we cannot sit here in this parliament with millions of South Africans watching us when they know that they are in darkness because of one man who has made sure that our state-owned entities are in a state of collapse. Today, Eskom cannot keep light in our houses.
Point of order.
Today, we cannot fly to Durban because there is a minister who's making sure that SAA is dysfunctional.
Point of order.
Today, we sit here with a minister that is working for white monopoly capital, making sure that the state-owned entities go to his friends.
Point of order.
We call for an adjournment.
Point of order.
That the president must go outside and make sure that he makes an announcement to the nation.
Honourable member, can you please sit down?
Pravin Gordhan is no longer a minister of this country. We cannot sit with him. We won't sit with Pravin Gordhan, not here. Pravin Gordhan must go. Pravin Gordhan must go, please.
That's not the point of order. We'll move
Point
on.
of order.
We'll move on.
Point of order.
Mazwani?
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces and Speaker. I rise in terms of 14N, in terms of time exceeded in the House, and I submit that the previous member exceeded his time for a point of order. I also rise in terms of 14N. I have a constitutional right, as does every member of the Democratic Alliance, to sit in this House and hear the SONA address of the President of the Republic, and I would hereby request that me and my party are allowed to hear the President deliver his SONA address.
Honourable members, can I plead with all of you? Can I make a plea and ask all of you to cooperate and proceed with business of the day? I will therefore, without any waste of time, request the President to proceed.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. I'm rising on a point of order.
What's your point of order, Mengwenya?
Madam Speaker, the Speaker, Deputy Speaker here, we have read the rules and we're waiting for him to rule. He cannot go on when we have asked him to rule on Rule 14C and 14S. Let him rule so that we know that he has allowed Pravin Gordhan, who has caused the economy of this country to plunge into darkness, to be in this house with us. The minister is trying to take away the economy of the people of South Africa and make them poorer. And he and his cronies are continuing to get richer and richer. He must go out of this government.
Honorable Ngwenya, can I address you? Honorable members, a point of order is only allowed if it calls to the attention to a transgression which all of you have not proven of a joint rule or an accepted parliamentary practice or privilege. The transgression, if there is one committed tonight here, is the one which the Honorable Mazoni is referring to. Interfering with the rights and the privilege of all the other members of this House and South Africa to get on with the business of today. I plead that we allow the business of the day to continue.
With the greatest respect, Madam Speaker, the Constitution is also on our side. Because we are members sworn to the Constitution, we also have a right to partake in these proceedings. I just want to really bring to your attention.
Can I respond to you on that point of the
I will be done in a moment, Speaker. I'll be done. We can't gather like things are normal here when things are abnormal. Pravin Gordhan, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, misled you. He misled you together with another man, and you fire the other man and not fire Pravin Gordhan.
Take your seat.
Please fire Pravin Gordhan now so that we go.
Take your seat. No, honorable members. You address us on the point of the Constitution. The Constitution gives this House, gives every member of this House the right to listen, to debate, to put questions. You want to raise the issue of a minister during the State of the Nation address. This is not the platform. You want to raise a question to the president will give both houses the dates for you to address that question, not a joint sitting. This House does not, honorable
Speaker.
Honorable member, take your seat. I have not finished my ruling. Take your seat.
Please recognize me.
Please take your seat. The joint sitting is not the platform to address how the president appoints or dismisses members of cabinet, because you do not have the powers to do so. You have the right to ask questions during question times and at any other time. The National Council of Provinces has the right to do the same in the other house. So can we please proceed with the business of the day? No, honorable members, I do not think we want to take any other further point of order, because you really are eating into the time of us to continue with the business of today.
Speaker.
If you address me, you're addressing me on a different point of order, not this one.
I rise on a point of order. You say there is no transgression committed here. Here sits a man who has misled the president and the entire nation. And if
honorable member, take your seat.
If the president cannot reign over him.
Honorable member, take your seat. That's not a point of order. That matter we have dealt with. We have directed you how you will deal with that point of order, unless you were not listening to us when we were speaking to you.
Speaker, you said you're going to recognize me.
Point of order.
Speaker, you promised to recognize me.
Point of order.
And I respected you and I sat down.
Honorable Shope, I had actually not, but I will give you the floor now.
Thank you. Speaker, we are proposing that please adjourn the House in order for the President to fire Pravin. You will have a peaceful sauna. Please adjourn the House in order for President Ramaphosa to fire Jamanda.
Please take your seat. Please take your seat. Honorable members,
point of order.
Don't do this.
Honorable Speaker.
What's your point of order?
No, it's not a point of order, Honorable Speaker. I just want to address you for a minute. Honorable Speaker.
Order.
Is the mic on?
Proceed.
Honorable Speaker. Oh. Honorable Speaker, we have the rules of the House.
Order, members.
We have the rules of the House.
Honorable member, this is not a perfect wedding. On what rule are you rising? On what rule?
Honorable Josie, take your seat. Honorable members of the EFF, honorable member, take your seat.
Honorable
Please
Speaker.
proceed.
Honorable Speaker, we have rules of the House here. We are not at Juju Valley or Megete Lodge.
On a point of order, Speaker.
Now, Speaker, look.
So, Speaker, on a point of order.
Honorable Speaker, we have been abused for too long now.
Please take.
We cannot be abused like the manner in which Mantra is being abused at home by Honorable Manema. This is totally out of order, Honorable Speaker. Let us apply the House of the Rules. EFF, if they want to engage you, let's go outside and engage outside. Leave this elderly people. Let's go and engage outside.
Let's go, Baba. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Order.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's
Honorable
go.
members. Honorable members, take your seats. Honorable members, take your seats. No. Honorable members, take your seats. Honorable members, take your seats. You all have a minute to take your seat or march out. Take your seats. You are on the floor, sir.
Honorable Speaker, I'm rising on 3 points of orders.
You will give us a point of order, sir, not 3 points.
All right, the point of order. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm rising on point of order 4.3. Since the beginning of this sitting, the members of this House have been referred with first names, which is not in order. I think that one must be snipped from the party. Number 2, Chair, the issue of the point of order. When a presiding officer has made a ruling, that ruling is final. If any member has got an issue around that, they know the process which they must follow in order to challenge the ruling of the presiding officer. It cannot be done in this House. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker.
Proceed, sir.
Honorable Speaker, I do respect the rules of this House very much, and that is why I kept on lifting my hand to be recognized, but it seems I had to stand. Honorable Speaker, you asked what is the transgression. The transgression is that the honorable member of the EFF, who started with this point of order, said that we will not sit in this House, and there are millions who will not want to listen to what the President says. That royal we must not be used here. The we is them and the members of his party. It doesn't include us. So, Honorable Speaker, you should rule that we continue with the sitting of this House, and those who do not want to be here should leave the House. Thank you.
Point of order.
Speaker.
Point of order, Honorable Speaker. Honorable
No,
Speaker.
Order, members, order. No. Honorable members.
Did you recognize me, Madam Speaker?
Honorable Godrich, please take your seat.
Okay.
Honorable Speaker, there are millions of people in South Africa and millions more internationally that want to hear what the President has to say.
Where are you? We can't see you.
Now, Honorable Speaker, Minister Godin
where are you? We
is a
can't
member
see
of
you.
this House and has the right to remain in this House. I call on you, Honorable Speaker, to exercise your right.
Don't speak sitting,
to
man.
protect
Stand
the
up.
dignity
Stand up, Chief.
and decorum of this House
Stand up, Chief.
and do what is correct, Honorable Speaker.
That order is sustained.
Point of
Honorable
order.
Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think this night we have all the arms of states in one room, which is this chamber. I really feel embarrassed to call myself as a member of parliament if we behave the way we are behaving. Therefore, the proposal that we want to make, Honorable Speaker, is that those who are not willing to listen to the State of the Nation address, they should not trample on our rights and the rights of the citizens of this country who want to listen to what the President wants to say to them. Honorable Speaker, please protect the rights of all of us.
Honorable members, I'm not taking any more points of orders. Honorable members,
Speaker.
I am not taking any point of orders.
Speaker.
Honorable Shibambo, take your seat.
I want to call order.
Honorable Shibambo, take your seat. Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members, you clearly do not have any interest in the business of this House today. You are delaying us. You are refusing us to start with the business of the day. Yes. Honorable members, there is an input on the floor. Any member who feels they do not want to participate in the proceedings of this joint sitting today, you are free to walk out and allow us and the rest of this country to enjoy the state of the nation. Yes. If you choose to sit and do not leave, you will sit and allow us to continue with the decorum of this house so that we can get on with the business of the day. Any other member who will stand up in this house and disrupt, please live in peace. Any member, you are disrupting. No. Honorable Shibambo, what do you understand to be a disruption?
A disruption is when you do not use the rules to make interruptions. An interruption is allowed in terms of the rules that are contained in this book, which guides all of us here now. There are two issues which you cannot overlook, Speaker. One, you have got a semi-literate person who can think and says here, who must go and fight outside the country.
No, I'm not entertaining that.
That is one.
No.
And number two, if we cannot find each other here in terms of this, which I propose because we did not have a chief whips forum yesterday, the whips must go outside to come with a solution.
Honorable,
so that we can guide this
can I
house
address
as
you?
whips on what must happen. So that is a concrete proposal so that we come to guide this house as whips of what should happen. That is the concrete proposal.
Honorable Shibambo, I will let you know. I will let you know, Honorable Shibambo, that the two of us presiding here are responsible for the running of this joint sitting. We can confer, but I can tell you that we do not think it is necessary for us to disrupt further the business of this meeting. You sit and you let us proceed with the business of today. No, Honorable Malemba, we have had enough.
No, on a point of order. You keep on saying members of parliament are disrupting parliament. When we stand up and speak through you, you cannot call that a disruption. You cannot call our inputs here a disruption. We've got a right to be here. We've got a right to speak here. And that's what we are getting paid for. And we can't, when we execute our responsibility, say, no, we don't have time. We've got all the time. We are getting paid to be here. We've got all the time. The Chief Whip has made a progressive proposal that let's adjourn for 5 minutes.
We're not adjourning.
So that the Chief Whips can talk outside, since there was no Chief Whip forum.
Honorable Malema, please take your seat.
Because this input we're going to make it yesterday in the Chief Whips forum. There was no Chief Whips forum. And
Honorable Malema, take your seat.
Forum, there's nothing we can do.
Honorable Malema, take your seat. Honorable members, what you are doing is a disruption. What you classify, no, order. What you do right now, when you disrespect what we say from the chair, when you think that you have unlimited freedom of speech to take away the rights of other members, that constitutes a disruption of the business of today. And therefore, we cannot allow this to go any further. No, we're not taking any further points of orders. We are not. We are not taking any points of orders. We are not taking any points of
Speaker.
Please take your seat.
No, but you must guide us through the rules.
Please take your seat. Please take your seat.
Guide us through the rules. Which rules are you quoting?
I am saying please take your seat.
But guide us through the rules. You are not your king.
If you do not wish to take your seat, sir, please leave this house. Honorable Mkalipi, I am not taking any further points of orders. You are simply retarding the progress of this house tonight. Honorable Godfrey, I'm not taking your point of order.
Madam Speaker,
I've been so well behaved with you. Our progress. Take your seat.
We started because I recognize you so well.
If you do not wish to take your seat,
I'm going to take my seat.
I am going to ask that you be held out of this house.
Please, just before that, don't be like Mama
Take your seat. No, take your seat. No, honorable
Madam
members,
Speaker.
you cannot come here and take away the rights of the rest of this house.
This one has
because you
taken
think
the
it
rights
is
of
within
our
your
people
rights.
to have lights and to
Honorable
fly to
Godfrey,
Durban.
I will not have
This one.
I will not have dialogue with you. Take your seat.
This one.
Take your seat.
But, Madam Speaker,
Take your
there is
seat.
a transgression.
Take your seat. No, honorable members, I'm not taking any further points of orders. Allow us to proceed with
Madam
this
Speaker,
house.
Madam
business.
Speaker, what about the rights of the members of this house? Do they not have a right to raise points of orders and to speak freely in this
Honorable
house?
Speaker.
What about the rights of the people of South Africa who are now sitting in darkness?
You are actually infringing
What about
on the
those-
rights of other members of this house as you do this.
What about
you
the
have
rights
time
of the
and
people
time
who
again.
cannot travel to
No,
Durban,
honorable member,
who are
take
there
your
to
seat.
cancel their-
No,
their-
take your seat.
What about those people?
Honorable member, take your seat. You
Those are
are
the people we
infringing on the
represent
rights
here.
of all the other members of this house. Your rights do not supersede the rights of all the other members of all these parties.
Speaker, as
You
the
are
head
not
of
recognized. Please take your seat.
Honorable Speaker, my hand have been up for a very long time and you are refusing to recognize me. There was...
If you are
recognize
coming
me?
back on the other points of orders that have
No,
been
it's a
raised in
new-
this
it's
house,
a new one, Speaker.
No.
It's a new one, Speaker.
The new one that is going to...
That will guide the House, Speaker. Speaker, the Chief Whip of the EFF made a proposal that the Chief Whips must go out. No, we are members of this House, and you can howl as much as you want because you want to protect Bravin, and you are protecting yourself.
Honorable member,
We are
can
members of
I
this House.
address you? I don't think you heard me.
No.
When that
Speaker, you are not
proposal was
hearing
made,
us.
I said, we are not suspending this house for the chief whips to go. We are not.
Speaker,
Honorable
on which
members, we do
rule?
not have a
On
crisis.
which
You have
rule,
a crisis.
Speaker? On which
You are
rule?
causing this
Speaker,
house not to
crisis.
proceed.
Speaker.
Please take your seats. Please take your seat. Honorable Ntlangwini.
Honorable Speaker, you have recognized me. I'm
Yes.
Honorable Tlangwini. Honorable Speaker, you have recognized me. I'm Honorable Tlangwini.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the Chief Whip. Yes, Speaker. Yes, Speaker.
I said proceed.
The Honorable Chief Whip of the EFF have made a concrete proposal. We have a crisis, Speaker.
And
the
I
Chief
have
Whips
responded to the
please go
proposal
out
of the
and
Chief
go
Whip.
and discuss this matter further.
No.
We want to know on which rule have you ruled that the Chief Whips can't go outside to go and address the matter of the
Thank you. Honorable
Bravin.
Ntlangwini, take your seat. Honorable Deputy Speaker.
With the greatest of apology to both of you, Madam Speaker and Chairperson, I think Rule 14G explicitly says that if the presiding officer is of the opinion that member is deliberately contravening a provision of these rules, or that a member is in contempt of or is disregarding the authority of the chair, or that member's conduct is grossly disorderly, he or she may order the member to withdraw immediately from the chamber and the remainder of the ruling. Can I make the second point? Madam Speaker, Chairperson, the presiding officer, after having called attention to conduct of a member who persists in irrelevance and repetition of arguments, may direct the member to discontinue his or her speech. I want to maintain, Madam Speaker, that this is grossly disorderly and repetitively raising arguments that we should request the members to stop, or you make the ruling, Madam Speaker.
Speaker, it doesn't
Members.
say members, it says member. You ought to be, there have to be a specific person. There is no generalization here.
Honorable members, please sit down. We will now proceed and have the President addressing the House. Honorable President.
Speaker of the National Assembly.
Mamtand, you did not rule. We were threatened over there that we must go out. They want to beat us. You did not rule them out. We can't be members of the House and then the members of the ANC come to threaten other members of the House. As if Tina were here on some favor. We are also elected. You did not reprimand them.
Honorable members, order. Honorable members, I'm sure South Africa is not very proud of us this night.
There is no electricity. They are in the dark.
I'm sure none of you are proud of what you are doing today. So, can we agree that we are going to allow this House to proceed with its business and that any spurious point of order will see a member walking out of that door? Can we agree on that? Can we agree that we will not have any spurious point of order? We are proceeding with the business of this House.
Speaker, I'm sure, Madam Speaker, with the greatest respect, you'll agree. It is not spurious.
Can you please sit down?
Speaker, it's not spurious. It's not spurious.
No.
They threatened us
Take
of
your seat,
violence.
Honorable
You owe
Jones.
us protection. It's not spurious.
Take your seat.
That
Honorable
our
members,
perfect
no
wedding.
member has any right to threaten any member. Neither does any member.
Boy, can you please sit down?
Neither does any member have the right to take away and to disadvantage any other member in any other fashion. So, you are not angels because you infringe on the right of all the other members in this House to proceed. And that is why I'm saying I'm not taking any point of order, except yours, Honorable Pando. What is your point of order?
Speaker, I think you have ruled correctly, Speaker, because there is indeed spurious use of the rules and very serious infringement of the rules. And I think, Speaker, you should act as you have indicated. Should there be any further interruption, members must be asked to leave the House. Thank you.
Honorable Mkalipi, I'm not taking any further points of order. The only point of order I will take is when you continue to interrupt the business of today.
Speaker.
Honorable Malema, do you intend to stop us from proceeding with the business of the day?
No, not at all.
So why are you up?
No. Violence was threatened. It was brought to your
I have
attention.
just called this whole House to order.
Not the whole House. It was
I
by
did.
a specific individual. By the rules of this House, you ought to call the individual concerned and ask that person to withdraw. So
Honorable
that we can
Malema.
have peace in this House. Because we shouldn't threaten violence. No one has got
Honorable
monopoly
Malema.
of violence.
Honorable Malema, take your seat. Honorable members, I did not see the member who threatened. I heard. No.
Our perfect wedding.
Don't behave.
Our
like
perfect
that.
wedding.
No. I heard a member saying any members should go out. I did not see. I'm not calling any member by name. I have made a ruling in
Just
this
ask
House
him if
that
he did
no member.
actually threaten
Honorable
us.
Gadi, take your seat or leave this House.
Honorable Speaker, we can help you with the
Member, take your
passage.
seat or please.
We can
Kwenda.
help you to show you who
No,
threatened
I
violence.
don't want your help. You take your seat now or leave in peace.
No, I'm saying because you say you
take
didn't.
your seat now or leave.
I'm helping.
You take this seat, Honorable Mukwena, or leave. Honorable Mkalipi, if you stand, you are prepared to walk out. Yes. Yes. If you stand and continue with your spurious points of orders and eat away the time for this country to get the state of the nation, please walk out, or we shall assist you. You are volunteering to go the first? Honorable President, please proceed.
Madam Speaker, with all due respect, Prince Buthelezi has had his hand up, respecting this house, and people are he's had his hand up. But you've got people jumping like popcorn and being recognized.
Honorable Buthelezi. Honorable Buthelezi.
Honorable Speaker, I think I have a right to ask a question to you as the presiding officer. I would like to know, our judiciary is here. Unfortunately, we can't consult them. Purely on common sense, is it right that a minority can impose their will on the majority? Quite clearly. Would you shout at you when you're speaking?
You are protected, Honorable Buthelezi.
Quite on sheer common sense. The people that have raised the matter and delayed us are a minority. The majority of us want to listen to the president. And I've been lifting my hand, and people just jump up and speak. But because I respect you and I will not break the rules and do what as they do, you don't give me a chance just to say a simple thing. I want enlightenment for you as the presiding officer. Is it right that the minority should impose their will on the majority of us?
Thank you, sir. Honorable Buthelezi, members of the House have the right to freedom of speech, but that freedom is not unlimited. It is subject to the rules of the House. It is subject to the provisions of the powers and privileges. So no member can impose their will on the rest of the members.
Oh, Speaker.
I did not recognize you. Please take your seat. No, take your seat.
Unrecognize.
Take your seat. Honorable members, I'm not going to recognize any hand. And any hand that...
Sorry, Speaker.
I will not recognize any hand. I will not recognize that hand.
Speaker. Speaker,
no
Speaker,
members, no.
Speaker, siyafuna ukumamela upresident ngokuzithoba okukhulu kodwa angeke sikwazi ukumamela upresident usabeke utatu Jamnandas apha asingeke sikwazi isizwe sonke sase South Africa siyakhala siyalila ngenxa yakhe asingeke siyafuna ukumamela siyafuna.
Honorable Sonti. Honorable Sonti, please leave the House. Please leave the House. Because you are deliberately making sure that this House does not conclude its business.
No, Speaker.
No.
You are not applying the rules.
No.
We should never...
No, Honorable Malema, you will not this night abuse the rules.
I'm calling you to order, Speaker.
No. You will not abuse the rights of the majority of the members of this House.
Call her to order. That's the first step you do.
I did call all of you to order.
You didn't. You called their name. You called their name once. You called their name once.
Honorable Malema, take your seat.
Call her by the name.
Honorable Malema, I called her by name. Honorable Malema, take your seat.
Tell her to sit down first, Speaker. You can't start by saying you must go out.
Honorable Malema, take your seat.
It's against the rules.
Honorable Malema, take your seat. No, honorable members, you are not going to hold us to ransom.
Can I get clarity, Speaker, so that they
take your seat.
Are you suspending the rules tonight?
Take your seat.
Are you suspending the rules tonight?
Honorable member, take your seat.
Which rule are you using which says you can no longer recognize hands? Which rule? Point us to the rule. It doesn't matter how much irritating are we in this house, but you ought to point the rule and say, according to this rule, I will no longer recognize hands. There is no such a rule. And
It
we're not
does
going to be treated
matter
as
how
a
much
group
we're
here.
irritated. You are right. It does not matter how much the two of us are irritated. That still does not give a minority or an individual member of this House more rights than the other members.
Point of order. Point of
No,
order.
members, you are not going to continue to do this.
Point of order.
A minority is judged by a vote. So let's vote
Honorable
so that we are
Mokoena,
sure that it's
please
a minority.
take your seat.
Point of order. Point of order. Madam Speaker.
Honorable Mazoni.
Speaker, I rise on point 14F of the joint rules as well as 14K. 14F deals with the irrelevance and repetition. We have now heard the same point of order called over 4 times. Chair, we've also been dealing with these points of order that have been repeated for exactly 50 minutes. In terms of 14K, it describes exactly what grave disorder is, and given the fact that the party calling points of order and disrupting the House at present made it very clear that they had every intention of disrupting the proceedings for tonight, 14K comes into play because it now refers to grave disorder in the House. Chair, I would ask you to once again protect the rights of the majority of the members in this House and let us have our constitutional right to hear the SONA addressed by the President.
On a point of order.
Yes.
On a point of order, Chairperson of the NCOP.
Honorable members.
Just on a point of order.
Honorable members.
I'm rising in terms of
please sit down.
Please
sit down. Please sit down.
But want to call that
because I've
point
not
of order to
recognized you.
order.
Please sit down. Sit down.
And please recognize me after that, please.
Sit down, yeah. Sit down. Thank you very much. Honorable members, it is very clear that continuously taking point of orders is not getting this House anywhere. Clearly, the freedom of speech of members is being abused. And we would really like to make a plea one more time that we should allow the President to proceed with his State of the Nation address. Honorable President, please proceed.
Chairperson of the NCOP, on a point of order.
I've not recognized you.
There's no rule yet.
Honorable member.
Party.
Honorable member.
Treated as members one by one. Here.
Honorable member, I've not recognized you, so please sit down. Please proceed, Honorable President.
Speaker,
I have already
Speaker,
said.
Can you please recognize us? I want us to work according to rules here. We are in Parliament.
Honorable Malima.
An activist Parliament.
Honorable Malima, we've not been recognized. Please sit down.
Can you recognize me?
Please sit down. Please sit.
Recognition?
Please sit. Honorable President.
Praambi.
No, Praambi, you are making a mistake. You are making a mistake. Recognize me. I want to speak according to the rules. Honorable Speaker, that you ought to say to us, according to which rule are you no longer going to take hands on point of order? Number one. Number two, there is no one who's going to be treated as a party here. There's no party here. They are members of Parliament who shall be recognized as individual members of Parliament. So there's no party. So please, and there is no majority and there's no minority.
Honorable
and if you are going to go with that narrative of minority, minority will know us.
Honorable Malima.
Slender, can you please sit down? Slender.
Please sit down. Honorable President, we're now proceeding, honorable members, with the State of the Nation address.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Thandi Modise, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Amos Masondo.
Honorable members, we are going to suspend the proceedings of this House. The bells will be rung for you to reconvene. This House is suspended.
tabatse monate ukota wa tsamaya le utlwile tabatse monate o Pravin o ena tsamaye
What?
Back in order.
Where is that 14G thing? Oh. Thank you very much, honorable members. We will now go on with our proceedings. We're going to do two things. We'll ask a member from each of the political parties to make a very brief comment. We will then, secondly, read to you 14G with regard to members being ordered to withdraw. And then finally, as a third step, we'll request the President to deliver a State of the Nation address. So without any waste of time,
I'm here.
We'll start with the first person.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the NCOP, the Speaker of our Parliament, Mr. President. Our problem is that there is Jamnandas in this house who has caused a huge problem in this country.
Speaker, point of order.
And you comrades want us to
point
proceed
of order.
As if things are normal.
Just briefly, the point of order, honorable member.
Thank you, Speaker. The rules determine the agenda of the House. We have the order of proceeding. That was published to say we are going to listen to the President, and there's no other item on the agenda. Please allow the President to address the nation.
Thank you, Chair.
Please proceed.
Yes. Now, our biggest problem, you can go out. Our biggest problem here, Mr. President.
And please be brief.
Very brief, very brief. Our biggest problem here is that the President is not listening to the
point of order
of South Africans.
On a point of order, Speaker.
To fire Pravin, who has caused us load shedding.
On a point of order, Honorable
black executives. Who's collapsing state-owned companies, who wants to sell our companies to white monopoly capital.
Point of order, Chair.
But equally, you have also invited the clerk who's got blood on his hands. For those reasons, Mr. President, we will not be sitting in this house. And if President is not going to fire Pravin, this will be our relationship with the President when he appears in this Parliament for the next 5 years. You can remain with your de Klerk and your Pravin. We can't sit with this sellout. Remain with them, Pravin and Madara.
Thank you very much.
We're not going to be addressed.
On a point of order, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Pravin must go. Jamnandas must go.
Please leave. Please leave.
Jamnandas must go.
Please leave.
Jamnandas must go.
Order. Order. Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Don't worry, we're going.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chair. We've been abused for a long time.
Order, ma'am.
Can the presiding officers assist us to remove those people?
Honorable members, please leave the house. Please leave the house.
And don't come back. Leave and don't come back.
Done next.
Please leave the house.
We're leaving you with your de Klerk and Pravin.
You don't have to tell us to leave the house. We are already
Honorable members, leave the house.
We are living on our own.
Numbers must go.
Permission. Numbers must go.
There is load shedding. Our people are not going to.
Order, members. Order. Sergeant at Arms, help those two members out. Honorable members, please close the door. Honorable members, honorable members, we do know that sometimes you get impatient with us. No, we will not replace one disorderly behavior with another. We had several rulings since 2014 in this House. The courts, these honorable members sitting here, rule in certain ways which force us to practice patience. No, members, no. No. The Honorable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to address you on a point of privilege, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Madam Speaker, the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament Act is very, very clear at 7 that it is an act of contempt for any member of this House that improperly interferes with or impedes the exercise or performance by Parliament or a House or a committee of its authority and function. I would submit to you, Madam Speaker, that this House has been impeded from performing its function for the last hour and a half. This is not acceptable. It is not acceptable. And therefore, in terms of Section 13 of the same Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament Act, a member is guilty of contempt if the member contravenes Section 7 of that Act. I would submit that the behavior that we've witnessed, including the hurling of water bottles at female members at the back of the House, is conduct constituting contempt, and that the members involved must be referred to the Powers, Privileges and Immunities Committee of this House for proper recourse to be taken to them. We cannot have the people's business disrupted in the manner it's been disrupted today, and I would ask you as the presiding officers to make such referral.
The Honorable, the Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have been abused for more than an hour. And it is only fair that this matter be referred to Powers and Privileges. We cannot and also amend further these rules, because if we will allow people to cause disorder for an hour and we are becoming patient and patient, we have tried, but now this is rather too much. Therefore, these members are supposed to be summoned to their Powers and Privileges and account for what they've done. Thank you.
The Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, may I first raise the issue that we've had our hands up. My leader, Reverend Meshu, has had his hands up continually. I, as a whip, had my hand up continually. And the EFF got support and were allowed to speak continually. And I want to voice my objection to that, because a number of us across political parties wanted to support your rulings, wanted you to bring order to the House. And you said millions of South Africans want to watch this House and wanted to watch the President and the State of the Nation. And it is deplorable and disgusting, this conduct. And I fully support the Chief Whip of the ANC that disciplinary action must be taken. And we need to apologize to the nation for the conduct. And yes, we did whatever we could to resist these attempts. And you said it is disruption. But let us take action in future, Speaker. Let us take firm action and not allow this to continue. And so the believers in this house also need to stand up for what is good and just and righteous in this nation at this time. So thank you, Speaker. Let us have order in this house, and let us listen to the President of this nation, the Commander-in-Chief of this nation. Thank you.
Is there any other party that wishes to? Honorable member there at the corner.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in terms of 14G, you know, it is clear that they have disregarded the authority of the Speaker of this joint sitting. Now, you repeatedly asked them, and you ruled on both these matters. Despite that, they continued. Now, Speaker, I know you've said that there's a problem in terms of judgment. Don't you think then it is time that we re-look at the rules and tighten those rules, taking into consideration that this is a deliberate act of criminality, because they've pronounced through the media that they are going to come here and they're going to disrupt this sitting. So I want to urge you, Honorable Speaker, and I agree with my colleagues that have just spoken, that there needs to be consequences for this action and what has happened here today. Thank you.
The Honorable Kwankwa, the Honorable Mulder, the Honorable Singh, in that order.
Speaker, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm trying to find very polite words to express how we feel as the UDM at this point in time. Actually, I think a better expression is found in Afrikaans, or a word, we are heartful. We are heartful of this. Why? Simply because Parliament consistently, on a continuous basis, fails to enforce its own rules. In the last term, Speaker, we used to stand here in front of this House and make decisive interventions in moments like these ones. And matters were referred to some or other committees, and nothing happened after that. And when we allow these things to happen, it means we are firmly entrenching and reinforcing this conduct. It means for the next 5 years, we are going to have to put up with this nonsense where for an hour we must sit here as if we have nothing better to do and listen to this squabble between yourselves. We need to provide better leadership. People aren't going to take us seriously as leaders, firstly, and as members of Parliament. That's why people don't take us seriously. It's because we don't take ourselves seriously as leaders. Speaker, I appeal to you and your leadership to enforce the rules of the House without fear or favor. We are here to do the job and the work of South Africans, and we do not want to be impeded in us being able to do that job. I thank you so much.
The Honorable Mulder.
Honorable Speaker, you are correct. You have to be patient, and we have to stick to the rules of the House. However, all members in this Parliament, as shortly ago as 9 months ago, swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and the law of the country. All of them, all these members as well. But the problem is this: if members actually misuse the rules of the House to make this place ungovernable like we've seen tonight, then we'll have to take different measures. And I think the time has come, and I want to support the proposal by the Leader of the Official Opposition that this be referred to powers and privileges. But the time has come to touch the pockets of those who do not want to listen. If you start to subject and deduct of the salaries of members who misbehave, it will be maybe something that will make them rethink their position. Lastly, I would like to propose a toast to the white shirts. They didn't even have to appear, and they disappeared.
The Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, they say patience is virtue, and you've shown your virtuous side today. But I don't think it's something that South Africans and us will tolerate. And I think in future, we've got to be a little more difficult and firm on that kind of behavior. One thing we have to do, Honorable Speaker, is look at these joint rules, because the rules of the National Assembly are much stricter and give you more directives that you can apply in the House, in the National Assembly. Here, it doesn't do that quite clearly. And I think this is one of the things we've got to do. I support the idea that the kind of ill discipline we've seen should be subjected to the Powers and Privileges Committee. And I agree with Honorable Kwankwa. I can't find another word in the language of my ancestors that says cutfall. But we are fed up with this kind of behavior. Thank you.
Honorable Member, is there any other party that wishes to say anything? We are fine. Al-Jama.
Thank you,
And Cope.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I just want to use...
And good.
Honorable Speaker, I just want to use this opportunity to apologize to our guests who came from all corners of South Africa, especially the elderly. Many of them was with me on the plane and came onto the plane with difficulty. I hope they accept our apologies.
The Honorable Lekwata.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At the beginning, I thought that perhaps we should have just gone on and finished the business and call a meeting with these youngsters being here. I'm sorry to call them that, but with them being here, because we need critical, basic education about being members of parliament. The first thing is that all of us take an oath to obey the Constitution and all other law. And we must do that. We have allowed these youngsters. In our Constitution, the Constitution of the country is enshrined in there. But we allow them every time and again in front of the entire country to sit down when the national anthem is being sung, even though they choose a portion of it. Why have we allowed for this? Why have we allowed that? And there are a number of other things. Maybe the judiciary must take the whole of us, the National Assembly, the National Council of Provinces, the provinces, and so on and so on, and tell us and explain to us what the Constitution and the oath we take, what that means. What that means. Because if we don't understand that, we make jokes about the Constitution, about the anthem, about all of these things. And when these children take that thing to its logical conclusion, disaster results. But we must go on with the business of tonight. Please, let's create a situation, an opportunity where we can sit with all, and our children in the schools and everywhere must be taught about the Constitution and the anthem, and so on. We have failed ourselves.
Thank you, Honorable. The Honorable Jalil, good.
Madam Speaker, I'm afraid to say that we are setting a very bad precedent tonight by allowing people to ignore your rulings. We all know the rule of Parliament is that when the Speaker made a ruling, that's the end. But you've made several rulings and allowed them to continue to undermine you. And that is a very bad precedent. Can we proceed with the business of the House, please? I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Nyanza.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You are so patient. We can't be held at ransom by one organization. We are here, we are also voted to be here. We must be respected. I concur with my colleagues that something must be done and the business of the day must go on.
The ATM.
Thank you, Speaker. I think the crisis, Speaker, should also be attributed to your office, because as a leader of this House, you are the one that is supposed to show leadership. And leadership, it is to try and understand and try to bring together the two different sides, whereby there's the EFF as well as the other members of this honorable House. Now, what we are proposing as the ATM, because it's easy now for the other parties to speak because the members of the EFF are not here. Now, what we're saying as the ATM is that from your side, as the leader of the House, try and provide leadership by bringing together all of these parties so there can be consensus. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, is there any other member? The Honorable Buthelezi? No.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, honorable ministers, deputy ministers, Their Excellencies, our former presidents, members of the judiciary, people of South Africa, I feel that on record, we should apologize to our colleague, the Honorable Mr. Gordon, for the abuse, because everyone knows that in every country, it's the prerogative of the head of government to appoint his ministers. It's not for anyone else to dictate to any head of government who he appoints. On the other hand, I think that we should also, Mr. de Klerk, I would like him at least, I hope I speak only for myself, but I'm sure there are many people, honorable to His Excellency Mr. de Klerk, to say that what you did in releasing Mandela after our talk, that he should be released and that exile should return, was a great thing. And that therefore...
Honorable Buthelezi, address him through the chair.
We don't agree with this conduct of abusing Mr. de Klerk after what he did.
Honorable members, I think all the parties have had an opportunity to respond. We take the criticism. We take the criticism on the patience. However, when a member is given an order to sit and sits down, on what basis do you then eject? And that was the technicality that we had to grapple with. Honorable member, we agree with the members who, and all the parties who are saying that the matters are grave and that the conduct of all the members who have left this House must be referred to the Powers and Privileges Committee. We also agree with the recommendation that we have a relook at the joint rules because they make it very difficult to summarily take the members out. We also agree with the suggestion that both houses look at touching the pockets of members. So we will take the recommendations to the rules, but we will also take the grave issue, the disruption to the Powers and Privileges Committee. If we agree, honorable members, can we continue and ask the President to please proceed?
Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Thandi Modise, the Chairperson of the Council, National Council of Provinces, Mr. Amos Masondo, Deputy President David Mabuza, the Chief Justice Mogoeng, and esteemed members of the judiciary, former President Thabo Mbeki and Sis Zanele Mbeki, former President Kgalema Motlanthe and Sis Gugu Motlanthe, former Deputy President F.W. de Klerk and Mrs. de Klerk, former Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Baleka Mbete and Mr. Khomu, President of the Pan-African Parliament, His Excellency Mr. Roger Nkodo Deng, UN Women South African Representative, Ms. Anne Kituku Shongwe, Isitwalandwe, Ubabu Andrew Mlangeni. Ministers and deputy ministers, premiers and speakers of provincial legislatures, President of SALGA, and and executive mayors, Governor of the South African Reserve Bank, Mr. Leseja Kganyago, heads of Chapter 9 institutions, leaders of faith-based organizations, leaders of academic and research institutions, members of the Diplomatic Corps, invited guests, honorable members of the National Assembly, and honorable members of the National Council of Provinces, and fellow South Africans. Ditama udumelisa batho bote, bane babapano na hayani, bingelela bonke abantu abasekhaya nalapha, nisheweta abantu hinkwabo bala Afrika Dzonga, labangalekaya na bangarila. Ke dumelisa batho kaofela ba South Africa, ba leng ko gae le ba leng teng mona. It is 30 years since Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela walked out of the gates of Victor Verster prison, a moment in our history that signaled, perhaps more vividly than any other, that freedom was at hand. As he stood on the balcony of the Cape Town City Hall to address the masses who had come in their tens of thousands to welcome him, he said, "Our march to freedom is irreversible. We must not allow fear to stand in our way," close quotes. Now, 30 years later, as we continue our onward march to improve the lives of our people, as we confront great challenges, as we endure troubled times, we too cannot allow fear to stand in our way. We must forge ahead, permitting neither adversity nor doubt to divert us. As we gather to reflect on the state of our nation, we are joined by the family of Basil February, a courageous young freedom fighter who lost his life in Zimbabwe in the Wankie campaign in 1967. For half a century, his resting place, like those of several of his comrades, has until now remained unknown. His contribution, his sacrifice has never been forgotten. This evening, we gather here humbled by the memories of those men and women who gave their lives for our freedom, deeply aware of the great responsibility we carry to realize their dreams. There are times when we have fallen short. There are times when we have made mistakes, but we remain unwavering in our determination to build a society that is free and equal and at peace. Our history tells us that when we are united in peace and when we are united in prayer and in faith, we can conquer all obstacles and turn our country into a place in which all feel free, safe, and comfortable. It is that spirit that we now approach this present moment. Our country is facing a stark reality. Our economy has not grown at any meaningful rate for over a decade. Even as jobs are created, the rate of unemployment continues to deepen. The recovery of our economy has stalled as persistent energy shortages have disrupted businesses and also people's lives. Several state-owned enterprises are in distress, and our public finances are under severe pressure. It is you, the people of South Africa, who carry this burden, confronted by rising living costs, unemployment, unable to escape poverty, hopelessness, and unable to realize our potential as a people. Yet at the same time, there is another reality, another part to our own reality. It is the reality of a youthful population that has more access to education than ever before, and which is achieving steadily improving outcomes. It is the reality of 2.4 million children who are now in early childhood development and preschool. It is about the reality of the 81% of learners who passed matric last year, with an increasing proportion coming from rural and township schools. And for this great achievement, we ought to applaud the class of 2019. Our reality is also that of the 720,000 students who received state funding for TVET colleges and universities last year. This funding has increased from 11.2 billion in 2016 to 35 billion rand in 2020. It is about the 6.8 million South Africans who today know their HIV status, about the 5 million people who have been initiated on antiretrovirals treatment, and the 4.2 million people whose HIV viral load is, as a consequence, undetectable. These are not just statistics. These are the lives of ordinary South Africans that have been improved. And they are signs of progress. Our reality is also about that of unbounded potential that we have, of a soil that is rich in minerals and in a diversity of plant and animal life that has few equals in the world, of a deep capital base, extensive infrastructure, sound laws and robust institutions, of a rich, diverse, young and talented people. Tonight, we're joined by Zozibini Tunzi, whose ascendance to the Miss Universe title is a reminder of our potential. And there she is. There is Zozibini. A young woman from the deep rural areas of our country who has risen to achieve greatness against all odds. We also welcome Springbok captain Siya Kolisi, who led a group of determined and united South Africans to become the 2019 World Rugby Champions. And this I saw for myself because I was there. We are also joined this evening by another remarkable young person, Miss Sinoyolo Kumba, a grade 11 learner from Lenasia South, who decided to write me a letter and say, President, I want to participate in the writing of your State of the Nation address. There she is. Sinoyolo spent much of yesterday helping me to write this State of the Nation address. So, if you like all the brilliant ideas, you can ascribe to her tonight. Her intellect, her social awareness, her passion, and her diligence gave me great confidence in the future of this country. In my first two addresses to the nation, I spoke at length about the necessity of social compacting and the great responsibility we shoulder as government to drive collaboration and consensus. In 1994, we chose the path of negotiation, of compromise and peaceful settlement instead of a path of hatred and revenge. Our history and contemporary experience has taught us that if we are to achieve what we set out to do, we must focus on what unites us instead of what divides us. The greatest strength of our constitutional democracy and the reason it has endured is because we have been able to forge broad-based coalitions and social compacts, be they with business, labor, special interest groups, or even wider society. Achieving consensus and building social compacts is not a demonstration of weakness. It is the very essence of who we are as South Africans. That is why over the past 2 years, we have been hard at work seeking to forge and build consensus around our economic recovery. In his inaugural address on the 10th of May in 1994, President Mandela said, "Today we enter into a covenant that we shall build a society in which all South Africans, both black and white, will be able to walk tall, without fear in their hearts, assured of their inalienable right to human dignity," close quotes. This government remains irrevocably committed to upholding that covenant. It is a covenant that is rooted in the strategic objective of our National Development Plan, which is aimed at eliminating poverty and reducing inequality by 2030. Let us frankly admit that the government cannot solve our economic challenges alone. Even if we were to marshal every single resource at our disposal and engage on a huge expenditure of public funds, we would not alone be able to guarantee employment to the millions of people who are today out of work. What we have achieved together. Over the course of the last 2 years since I first stood here to deliver a State of the Nation, we have worked to forge compacts among South Africans to answer the many challenges before us. Through the Job Summit, we brought labor, business, government, and communities together to find solutions to the unemployment crisis. And we continue to meet at the beginning of every month when the Deputy President and myself meet together with our social partners at NEDLEC to find ways of removing blockages and drive interventions that will save jobs and create new jobs. We have come together as government and civil society, as communities and faith-based groupings to confront another huge challenge that faces our country, which is the violence that is perpetrated by men against South African women. We have brought business, labor, and government together to craft master plans for those industries that have the greatest potential for growth. We have come together as different spheres of government, as different state entities, as business associations, community groups, under a new district development model that is fundamentally changing our approach to local development. We have been building social compacts because it is through partnership and cooperation that we can have progress. Together over these last 2 years, We have worked to stabilize our economy and build a foundation for future growth. We have been deliberate in rebuilding institutions and removing impediments to investments. We have acted decisively against state capture and fought back against corruption. We have steadily improved the reach of education, improved the quality of health care, and tended the basic needs of the poor. Yet, we have to say that has not been enough. It has not been enough to free our economy from the grim inheritance of our past, nor from the mistakes that we ourselves have made. It has not been enough to spare us from the debilitating effects of load shedding, nor from an unstable and subdued global economy. And so we find ourselves today at a decisive moment. We have a choice. We can succumb to the many and difficult protracted problems that confront us, or we can confront them with resolve and determination and with action. Because we choose to confront our challenges, our immediate, vital, overarching task is to place our economy on a path of inclusive growth. Without growth, there will be no jobs, and without jobs, there will be no meaningful improvement in the lives of our people. So this State of the Nation address is therefore about inclusive growth. It is about the critical actions that we need to take this year to build a capable state and place our economy on the path of recovery. This year, we fix the fundamentals. We pursue critical areas of growth, and we ensure excellence in planning and execution in government. For over a decade, South Africans have had to contend with the effects of constrained energy supply. I've spoken extensively about the critical role that Eskom plays in our economy and our country, and in the livelihoods of every South African. The load shedding of the last few months has had a debilitating effect on our country, on our economy, and on our people. It has severely set back our efforts to rebuild the economy and to create jobs. Every time it occurs, it disrupts people's lives, causing frustration, inconvenience, and hardship. At its core, load shedding is the inevitable consequence of Eskom's inability over many years, due to debt, lack of capacity, mismanagement, and state capture, to service its power stations. The reality that we will need to accept is that in order for Eskom to undertake the fundamental maintenance necessary to improve the reliability of supply, load shedding, unfortunately, will remain a possibility for the immediate future. Where load shedding is unavoidable, it must be undertaken in a manner that is predictable and minimizes disruption and the cost to firms and households. Over the next few months, as Eskom works to restore its operational capabilities, we will be implementing measures that will fundamentally change the trajectory of energy generation in our country. We are taking the following measures to rapidly and significantly increase generation capacity outside of Eskom. The Section 34 ministerial determination will be issued by the Minister of Energy, Mineral Resources and Energy, shortly to give effect to the Integrated Resource Plan of 2019, enabling the development of additional grid capacity from renewable energy, natural gas, hydropower, battery storage, as well as coal. We will initiate the procurement of emergency power from projects that can deliver electricity into the grid within 3 to 12 months from approval. The National Energy Regulator will continue to register small-scale distributed generation for own use of under 1 megawatt, for which no license is required. The National Energy Regulator will ensure that all applications by commercial and industrial users to produce electricity for own use above 1 megawatt are processed within the prescribed 120 days. It should be noted that there is now no limit to install capacity above 1 megawatt. We will also open bid window 5 of the Renewable Energy IPP and work with producers to accelerate the completion of window 4 projects. We will negotiate supplementary power purchase agreements to acquire additional capacity from existing wind and solar plants. We will also put in place measures to enable municipalities in good standing to procure their own power from independent power producers. Now, in line with the roadmap announced last year, Eskom has started with the process of divisionalizing 3 operating activities: generation, transmission, and distribution, each of which will have its own board and management structures. The social partners organized under NEDLEC have been meeting, deliberating, and discussing a number of proposals over the last 2 weeks to find agreement on the principles of what they call a social compact on electricity. This is a historic and unprecedented development in our country, since it demonstrates the commitment of all social partners to take the necessary actions and make the necessary sacrifices to secure our energy needs. Through this compact, the social partners seek an efficient, productive and fit-for-purpose Eskom that generates electricity at affordable prices for communities and industries. This requires both a drastic reduction in costs, including a review of irregular contracts and measures to mobilize resources that will reduce Eskom's debt and inject fresh capital where needed. The social partners, who are trade unions, federations, business, community-based organizations, and government, are committed to mobilizing funding to address Eskom's financial crisis in a financially sustainable manner. They would like to do this in a manner that does not in any way, form, or shape put workers' pensions at risk, and that does not compromise the integrity of the financial system. Now, while they work to finalize this agreement, the reality is that our energy system will remain constrained until new energy generation comes on stream. Through these immediate measures and the work underway, which is being led by the Deputy President, to fundamentally restructure our electricity industry, we will achieve a secure supply of reliable, affordable, and ultimately sustainable energy. We undertake this decisive shift in our energy trajectory at a time when mankind, or humankind rather, faces its greatest existential threat in the form of climate change. Yesterday, I met a young lady called Ayaka Melitafa, a young climate activist from Eastern Rivier who attended the World Economic Forum in Davos this year to call on world leaders to stand firmly for climate justice. Ayaka asked me to make sure that no African child is left behind in the transition to low-carbon, climate-resilient, and sustainable society. And it is a promise I intend to keep because I made that promise to her. The Presidential Commission on Climate Change will ensure that as we move towards a low-carbon growth trajectory, that we leave no one behind. We will finalize the climate change bill, which provides for a regulatory framework for the effective management of the inevitable climate change impacts by enhancing adaptive capacity, strengthening resilience, and reducing vulnerability to climate change, and as well as identifying new industrial opportunities in the green economy. We need to fix our public finances. Low levels of growth mean that we are not generating enough revenue to meet our expenses. Our debt is heading towards unsustainable levels, and spending is misdirected towards consumption and debt servicing rather than infrastructure and productive activity. We cannot continue along this path, nor can we afford to stand still. When he delivers his budget speech 2 weeks from now, the Minister of Finance will outline a series of measures to reduce spending and improve composition. We are engaged with Labour and other stakeholders on measures that we need to take to contain the public wage bill and reduce wastage. Efforts to reduce government spending, to prioritize resources more effectively, and improve the efficiency of our tax system are important, but they are insufficient. Contributions towards stabilizing our public finances. Achieving sustainability will ultimately require us to address structural challenges in the economy that raise the cost of living and doing business. By working with the Auditor General to reduce irregular expenditure, by shifting government spending from consumption expenditure to investment in infrastructure, we aim to improve the state of our public finances. National Treasury and the Reserve Bank are working together to ease pressure on business and consumers. We have decided to establish a sovereign wealth fund as a means to preserve and grow the national endowment of our nation, giving practical meaning to the injunction that the people shall share in the country's wealth. We are also proceeding with the establishment of a state bank as part of our effort to extend access to financial services to all South Africans. The Minister of Finance will provide details on this in his budget. We will be undertaking far-reaching economic reform measures that will include those that are contained in the paper produced by the National Treasury entitled Economic Transformation, Inclusive Growth and Competitiveness. This year, we are moving from the stabilization of state-owned enterprises to repurposing those strategic companies to support growth and development. After years of state capture, corruption and mismanagement, We are working to ensure that all SOEs are able to fulfill their developmental mandate and that they should be financially sustainable. In consultation with the Presidential SOE Council, we will undertake a process of rationalization of our state-owned enterprises and ensure that they serve strategic, economic, and developmental purposes. The extent of state capture and corruption and mismanagement in SOEs is possibly best demonstrated at South African Airways, which was placed in business rescue late last year. The business rescue practitioners are expected to unveil their plans for restructuring the airline in the next few weeks. In the interest of South Africa's aviation industry and our economy, it is essential that a future restructured airline is commercially and operationally sustainable and is not dependent on further government funding. A key priority this year is also to fix the commuter rail, which is vital to the economy and to the quality of the life of our people. Our rail network daily transports hundreds of thousands of commuters to and from work. We are modernizing PRASA rail network. The Central Line in the Western Cape and the Mabopane Line in Pretoria have been closed for essential refurbishment and upgrades. We are investing 1.4 billion rand in each of these lines to provide a safe, reliable, and affordable service. Work is underway on other lines, which includes station upgrades, parkway replacements, new signaling systems, and overhead electrical traction upgrades. As we work to fix the capabilities of the state, we know that growth and job creation will, in large measure, be driven by the private sector. We are therefore building an operating environment that is favorable to doing business. Working together with our social partners, we have continued to address several issues that have been barriers to job creation. Some of those issues are issues such as water use licenses, which are so essential to operations on farms, in factories, in mines, and these have previously taken an inordinately long time to process. Sometimes some corporations have waited up to 3 to 5 years just to get water use licenses. We are now able to announce that water use licenses will now be issued within 90 days instead of 3 years. It also used to take months to have a company registered. Through the Biz Portal platform, one can now register a company in 1 day, register for UIF and SARS, and even open a bank account. One of the challenges that we've been facing is the congestion and the inefficiency of our ports. This has been raised over and over again by business who need to import and export goods. Now, during the course of this year, we will undertake a fundamental overhaul of Durban Port, the third largest container terminal in the Southern Hemisphere, to reduce delays as well as costs. The most significant contribution we can make to inclusive growth is in the development of appropriate skills and capabilities. The investments we make now in early childhood development and early school learning will yield great economic benefits in the next 2 decades and beyond. But there are immediate interventions that we are making to improve the quality and the relevance of the educational outcomes. We're making progress with the introduction of the three-stream curriculum model, heralding a fundamental shift in focus towards more vocational and technical education. Various technical vocational specializations have already been introduced in 550 schools, and 67 schools are now piloting the occupational stream. We're building 9 new TVET colleges this year in Sterkspruit, Aliwal North, Graaff-Reinet, Ngungunqushe, and in the Eastern Cape, and in Umzimkhulu, Greytown, Msinga, Nongoma, in KwaZulu-Natal. Through bilateral student scholarship agreements we have signed with other countries, we are steadily building a substantial cohort of young people who go overseas each year for training in critical skills. We have seen the impact this can have when we just look at one aspect of this training that we've been offering to the young people of our country. The Nelson Mandela Fidel Castro Medical Training Program in Cuba has produced over 1,200 medical doctors. And these are young people who come from poor families, the townships and the rural areas, who would ordinarily never have had an opportunity to go into Wits, Cape Town, Pretoria, and all that. They are now being trained and coming back as doctors. A further 640 students are expected to graduate in December this year. Now, this program alone is a living monument and testament to these two great revolutionaries, Fidel Castro and Nelson Mandela, and we thank them. Last year, I spoke about our plan to issue tablet computers to school students. The process of distributing these is underway. We said that every 10-year-old needs to be able to read for meaning. Our early reading programs are gathering momentum. This year, we will be introducing coding and robotics in grade R to 3 in 200 schools, with a plan to introduce this on a more universal basis in 2022. We have decided to establish a new university of science and innovation in Ekurhuleni. Now, Ekurhuleni is the only metro in our country that does not have a university. They will have their own university now. This will enable young people in Ekurhuleni to be trained in high-impact and cutting-edge technological innovation for current and future industries. Investment and growth require a safe, stable, and crime-free environment. More importantly, it is fundamental to the aspirations of all our people to live in security, in peace, and in comfort. Police visibility, effective training, and better resourcing of police stations are our priorities. I have prioritized our response to the growing problem of criminal groups that extort money from construction and other businesses. Specialized units bringing together South African Police Service and the National Prosecuting Authority are mandated to combat these crimes of economic disruption. To support the growth of the tourism industry, The South African Police Service will increase visibility at identified tourist attraction sites. It is training tourism safety monitors, and we will establish a reserve police capacity to focus on the policing of tourist attraction areas, as we have had and experienced huge problems around those sites. Anti-gang units will be further strengthened with priority given to the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, Gauteng, and the Free State. Following the graduation of 5,000 police trainees last year, 7,000 new police trainees have been enlisted this year to strengthen local policing. To improve the quality of general and specialized South African Police Service investigations, we are establishing a crime detection university in Hammanskraal. Over the last 6 months, the nation has been galvanized across communities, government, civil society, religious groupings, the judiciary and parliament to end the crisis of violence that is perpetrated by men against the women of our country. It has been a truly united, determined response from all South Africans. Through building social compacts across society to fight this scourge, we will be able to achieve much more. But it is only the beginning of the struggle. We implemented an emergency action plan and prioritized 1.6 billion rand to support this plan until the end of this current financial year. There has been progress in several areas. We will amend the Domestic Violence Act to better protect victims in violent domestic relationships and the Sexual Offences Act to broaden the categories of sex offenders whose names must be included in the National Register for Sex Offenders. And we will pass a law to tighten bail and sentences condition in cases that involve gender-based violence. Honorable members, we will not let up our fight against corruption and state capture. We will need to work together to root out corruption and strengthen the rule of law. We should not solicit or bribe or pay bribes or engage in corrupt acts. We should upgrade our culture of reporting crime when we see it being committed. Now, this battle can only succeed if it is taken on by the whole of society, if we build a formidable social compact of all formations. We therefore welcome the work of the Joint Government and Civil Society Working Group charged with developing a national anti-corruption strategy and implementation plan, which is close to completion of its work. We plan to launch this strategy mid-year. Now, the Zondo Commission into State Capture continues with its critical work with the full support of the government and other institutions. I have received a detailed and voluminous report on the Commission of Inquiry into the Public Investment Corporation. I will make it available to the public together with a plan on taking the findings and recommendations forward in a few days. Now, as we fix the fundamentals, as we deepen the reforms we have made, we pursue a number of areas of inclusive growth. In the previous SONA, I said that it is a critical area of investment that supports structural transformation and job creation. The Infrastructure Fund implementation team has finalized the list of shovel-ready projects and has begun work to expand private investment into public infrastructure sectors with revenue streams. These include areas like student accommodation, social housing, independent water production, rail freight branch lines, embedded electricity generation, municipal bulk infrastructure, and broadband rollout. The team has a project pipeline with potential investments of over 700 billion rand over the next 10 years, including both government and non-governmental contributions. The cranes and yellow equipment that we have longed to see across the landscape of our country will once again soon be an everyday sight. The social housing program to build rental housing for low-income families is at implementation stage, which would leverage as much as 9 billion rand for private investment in the construction of 37,000 rental apartments. The young people who are at TVET and university and TVET colleges face serious accommodation challenges. Some don't even have places to sleep after lectures and resort to sleeping in libraries. We are going to spend 64 billion rand over the next years in student accommodation and will leverage at least another 64 billion in private investment. Now, these building projects are ready to start. We have been speaking about another important project for years, the Umzimvubu Dam in the Eastern Cape. We've been talking about it for more than a decade with little to show on the ground. We are determined to overcome the financial and other challenges that have held the progress back and denied the people of the Eastern Cape such a vital resource. Road construction on the site has commenced, and I will soon be visiting the site myself to ensure that we take this work forward. We are launching a tourism equity fund this year to stimulate transformation in tourism. Last year, I asked the nation to join me in dreaming, in imagining a new smart city, in imagining how we can build a truly post-apartheid city that would rise to change the social and economic apartheid spatial architecture. Now, I have news for you. A new smart city is taking shape in Gauteng, in Lanseria, which will have 350,000 to 500,000 people who will call that place home in the next decade. Now, this process is being led by the Investment and Infrastructure Office in the Presidency alongside the provincial governments of Gauteng and Northwest, working together with the cities of Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Madibeng. This is a real city that is rising from the ground and going up. Now, working with development finance institutions, we have put together an innovative process that will fund the bulk sewage, electricity, water, digital infrastructure, and roads that will be the foundation of this new city. It will not only be smart and 5G ready, but will be a leading benchmark for green infrastructure continentally and internationally as well. We will be piloting an alternative township and rural roads paving program, during which we will start off with experimenting road stretches of 50 kilometers each that will be constructed in various parts of the country. And this is a very special program for me. This initiative will ensure cost-effective solutions for the state in terms of road building. It will also deliver meaningful skills to the young people in our country and has a higher potential for labor-intensive job creation than conventional road construction methods. We are confronted by the crisis of youth unemployment. Of the 1.2 million young people who enter the labor and market each year, approximately 2/3 remain outside of employment, training, and education. More than half of all young people are unemployed. This is a crisis. We need to make this country work for young people so that they can work for our country. The solution to this crisis must be two-pronged. We must all create opportunities for youth employment and self-employment. On youth employment, as from today, we begin the implementation of the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention. There are 6 priority actions that we will be taking over the next 5 years to reduce youth unemployment. Firstly, we are creating pathways for young people into the economy. We are building cutting-edge solutions to reach young people wherever they are, through online platforms, on the phone, and in person. This will allow them to receive active support, information, and work readiness training to increase their employability and match themselves to opportunities. Starting this month, we are launching 5 prototype sites in 5 provinces that will grow to a national network reaching 3 million young people through multiple channels. This will allow them to receive active support, information, and work readiness training to increase their employability. Second, we are fundamentally changing how we prepare young people for the future of work, providing shorter, more flexible courses in specific skills that employers in fast-growing sectors need. In the past, what we've often said to young people, go for training for 2 years, 3 years, and we're saying we now need to structure training opportunities for young people that are focused, that are short, so that young people can enter work quickly and be effective. Third, we are developing new and innovative ways to support youth entrepreneurship and self-employment. Fourth, we are scaling up the Youth Employment Service and working with TVET colleges and the private sector to ensure that more learners receive practical experience in the workplace to complete their training. Fifthly, we are establishing the first cohort of a presidential youth service program that will unlock the agency of young people and provide opportunities for them to earn an income while contributing to nation building. Fifthly, we will lead a youth employment initiative that will be funded by setting aside a portion of our budget to deal with the high levels of youth unemployment. And I've said to my colleagues that youth unemployment is the biggest problem that we face, and I therefore want us, through a top slicing from the budget, which will require that we all tighten our belts and redirect resources to address the national crisis of youth unemployment. Now, the Minister of Finance will prioritize this initiative and give specific details when he delivers the medium-term budget policy statement later this year. These actions will together ensure that every young person in this country has a place to go, that their energy and capabilities are properly harnessed, and that they can contribute to the growth of their communities and their country. Now, as part of this intervention, the National Youth Development Agency and the Department of Small Business Development will provide grant funding and business support to 1,000 young entrepreneurs in the next 100 days, starting tomorrow. We have invited 3 of these young entrepreneurs to join us here this evening. Siyabonga Tiwana, Sibusiso Mahone, and Tolakele Nkosi, who are here with us. There they are. They are already participating as budding participants and entrepreneurs and engineers in the programs that we are crafting for them and supporting them in. This is for real. We are going to give the young people of our country great opportunities so that they can participate in the economy. They and others like them prove that given the necessary support, young people can create their own opportunities. These 3 young entrepreneurs form part of a larger and more ambitious program that we are embarking on to assist 100,000 entrepreneurs over the next 3 years to access business skills, funding, and market facilitation. And we are going to do it. The empowerment of women is critical to inclusive economic growth. We are introducing She Trades ZA platform. She Trades ZA platform to assist women-owned businesses to participate in global value chains and markets. Over the next 5 years, the Industrial Development Corporation is targeting 10 billion rand of own and partner funding for women empowerment businesses. To create a larger market for small businesses, we plan to designate 1,000 locally produced products that must be procured from SMMEs. The procurement bill will soon be presented to Parliament as part of our efforts to empower Black and emerging businesses and advance radical economic transformation. This year, we intensify our investment drive with the establishment of an integrated investment promotion and facilitation capability coordinated from the Presidency. We will hold our 3rd South Africa Investment Conference in November to review the implementation of previous commitments and to generate new investment in our economy. At the 2nd South Africa Investment Conference last year, over 70 companies made investment commitments of 364 billion rand in industries as diverse as manufacturing, agro-processing, infrastructure, mining, services, tourism, and hospitality. In the first 2 years of our ambitious investment drive, we've succeeded in raising commitments totaling 664 billion rand, which is more than half of our 5-year target of 1.2 trillion rand. More importantly, these investments are having real impact. Already projects with an investment value of 9 billion have been completed, and 27 projects worth just over 250 billion are in implementation phase, with more coming on stream this year. I have visited newly built factories that make smartphones and plants that produce cars, and I've walked through the dust on construction sites at several supplier parks, both in KZN and in Gauteng. We have been to the opening facilities producing goods ranging from power cables to sanitary products and to tires and to food. We have made important progress in finalizing and implementing the master plans that I spoke about in 2018 in vital parts of our economy. Now, these master plans have enabled us to focus on particular sectors of our economy, rather than just being too generalized. We have decided that we want to focus on certain sectors, build social compacts with the role players, with the owners of capital, with the workers, with communities in those various sectors. These master plans bring government, labor, and business together to develop practical measures to spur growth at sector level, and each partner contributes to making it work. Thanks in large measure to the Auto Master Plan, we sold more cars to the rest of the world last year than ever before, providing jobs for young people in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. We launched a new Auto SEZ hub in Tshwane, which will expand production and local manufacturing of components. The Clothing and Textile Master Plan, which was signed last year, and this is signed by all the role players as they make commitments. This one aims to create 121,000 new jobs in the retail clothing and textile and footwear sector over the next few years. It involves commitments by retailers to buy goods locally, by manufacturers to invest and support transformation, and by labor to develop bargaining structures that promote agile manufacturing. For its part, government has already begun to act vigorously against illegal imports, seizing almost 400 containers with under-invoiced products in the last quarter of 2019. Now, buying locally and focusing on what is made in South Africa is an important task that we must all take. The suit that I'm wearing today, and it's a brand new suit, I must confess, was proudly made by South African workers here in Cape Town. And we would like to encourage all of us to buy South African-made goods. We completed the Poultry Master Plan to support chicken farmers and processors and save 54,000 jobs while creating new ones. The industry is now focused on growth, greater production, and more investment. We will, within 2 weeks, set a new poultry import tariff adjustment to support local industry. We have developed a plan with farmers and industrial users to save jobs also in the sugar industry, and will finalize a sugar master plan within the next 6 weeks, and expect a new steel master plan to be finalized in the coming 6 months. Effective today, new regulations published in the Government Gazette, will enable investigation and action against abuse of buyer power and price discrimination. This will help even the playing field for small businesses and emerging entrepreneurs. Market inquiries into data services, the grocery retail market, and healthcare have provided the basis for measures to reduce costs to consumers and make these sectors more competitive. The competition authorities are now working towards a resolution with the large mobile operators to secure deep cuts to data prices across prepaid monthly bundles. Now, additional discounts targeted at low-income households, a free daily allocation of data, and free access to educational and other public investment website is going to also happen. This is an important step to improve lives, bring people into the digital economy, and stimulate online businesses. The digital economy will increasingly become a very important driver of growth and a creator of employment. The Presidential Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution has made far-reaching recommendations that impact on nearly every aspect of the economy in many areas of our lives. The Commission's report provides us with the tools to ensure that we extract the greatest benefit of these revolutionary technological changes. An important condition for the success of our digital economy is the availability of high-demand spectrum to expand broadband access and reliability. Now, the regulator, ICASA, has undertaken to conclude the licensing of high-demand spectrum for industry via auction before the end of 2020. Because of additional requirements, the licensing of the Wireless Open Access Network, or the WOAN, is likely to be completed during the course of next year. Agriculture is one of the industries with the greatest potential for growth. This year, we implement key recommendations of the Presidential Advisory Panel on Land Reform and Agriculture to accelerate land redistribution, expand agricultural production, and transform the industry. Government stands ready, following the completion of the parliamentary process, to amend Section 25 of the Constitution to table an expropriation bill that outlines the circumstances under which expropriation of land without compensation will be possible. To date, we have released 44,000 hectares of state land for the settlement of land restitution claims, and will this year release around 700,000 hectares of state land for agricultural production under the leadership of the Deputy President. We are prioritizing youth, women. We are prioritizing youth, women, people with disabilities, and those who have been farming on communal land and are ready to expand their operations for training and allocation of land. A new beneficiary selection policy includes compulsory training for potential beneficiaries before land can be allocated to them. Because of the drought in many parts of the country, farmers have lost their crops and livestock, and many workers have lost their jobs and their livelihoods. Working with the Agricultural Research Council and other scientific and agricultural bodies, we have developed drought mitigation strategies that focus on developing drought-resistant seeds, planting and storing fodder, removing of invasive plants, and management strategies to prevent soil degradation. This year, we will open up and regulate the commercial use of hemp products, providing opportunities for small-scale farmers. This is our approach to the opportunities that are offered by cannabis farming, which happens throughout the country. We will formulate policy on the use of cannabis products for medicinal purposes to build this industry in line with global trends. The regulatory steps, I can see when I talk about cannabis, people get quite excited. I begin to wonder whether they are excited because they know about it or know how it is used or are users themselves. Now, a fundamental condition for growth and development is a healthy and productive population with access to quality and affordable health care. We have noted the enthusiastic support from South Africans during the public hearings on the National Health Insurance and are putting in place mechanisms for the implementation following conclusion of the parliamentary process. Now, in preparation for the NHI, we have already registered more than 3,000 clinics. And we have already registered more than 44 million people at over 3,000 clinics in the electronic health patient registration system. Now, I have established the Presidential Working Group on Disability to advise my office on measures to advance the empowerment of persons with disabilities as government plans, budgets, and implements its programs. Following the recognition by the Department of Basic Education in 2018 of South African Sign Language as a home language, and the recommendation by the Parliamentary Constitutional Review Committee that it be the 12th official language, we are now poised to finalize this matter. Now, earlier this week, I returned from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, where South Africa assumed the chairship of the African Union for 2020. We take up this responsibility at an important time for our continent. This year, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement comes into effect. This is our moment as the people of the continent to give effect to the dreams of the founding fathers of African unity. South Africa will host the extraordinary summit of the AU in May this year, where we will finalize the modalities of the Free Trade Area Agreement before implementation, and side by side with that summit, we will also hold a summit on silencing the guns on our continent. Here we will finalize on the AFCTA the rules that define what is made in Africa, the tariff lines that will be reduced to zero over the next 5 years, and the services sector that will be opened up across the continent. Now, allow me to take this opportunity to congratulate our compatriot, Wamkele Mene, who was this past weekend elected as the first Secretary General of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Now, he will depart and be based in Ghana, which is the seat of the AFCTA, and we assure him of our full support as he assumes his historic and challenging responsibility. South Africa has therefore prioritized the empowerment of Africa's women during its term as AU chair, working together with all member states on measures that we all need to take to promote the financial inclusion, the preferential procurement and preferential trade arrangements for women. The AU heads of states have pledged their support for measures to end gender-based violence on the continent and will work towards the adoption of an AU Convention on Violence Against Women during the course of this year. Through the Africa Peer Review mechanism, South Africa will work with other countries to advance good governance and democracy. We will use all the means at our disposal, including the membership of the UN Security Council, to promote peace and security on our continent. Honorable members, everything that we must do must be underpinned by effective implementation. That is why we've developed the district development model, a unique form of social compacting that involves the key role players in every district so that we can unlock the development and economic opportunities in all areas of our country. It builds the capability of the state where it has most been broken. During the State of the Nation address in 2019 in February, I addressed the 5 most urgent tasks of the moment. Key amongst them was the need to strengthen the capacity of the state to address the needs of our people. A broad range of critical work is being done across government to strengthen the capacity of local government as the sphere of government closest to the people, so that it can achieve its developmental mandate of finding sustainable ways to meet the social, economic, and material needs of communities and improve the quality of their lives. Provincial and national government will redouble their efforts to support and strengthen the capacity of municipalities, as is required by Section 154 of the Constitution. And we will also redouble our efforts to monitor and to support the municipalities across our country. It is only when the structured support has failed that the provincial executive or the national government will invoke Section 139 to intervene in strengthening local government. Currently, there are 40 municipalities in the country that have been subjected to such intervention. The measures that will be taken will complement the objectives of the new district development model that seeks to take an integrated approach to service delivery. The residents of Mamusa municipality in Northwest are the people who have already seen the actual practical workings of the district development model as they had to deal with a municipality that had collapsed. And through the district development model, we were able to ensure that the various services that had collapsed are actually re-established. This year, we plan to expand this district development model to 23 new districts, drawing on lessons from the 3 pilot districts that we have already been to. OR Tambo District Municipality, eThekwini, and Waterberg District Municipality. Now, to strengthen the capacity of the state and increase accountability, I will be signing performance agreements with all ministers before the end of this month. These agreements, which are based on the targets contained in the medium-term strategic framework, will be made public so that the people of South Africa can hold those who they have elected into office to account. We see these performance agreements as the cornerstone of a new culture of transparency and accountability, where those who are given the responsibility to serve, whether as elected office bearers or public servants, do so as expected of them. It is a culture where corruption, nepotism, and patronage are not tolerated, and action is taken against those who abuse their power or steal public money. Since I took office, we have built and have been building capacity in the presidency and elsewhere in the state to fast-track progress on a clear list of urgent reforms. We have established the Project Management Office, the Infrastructure and Investment Unit, and the Policy and Research Services to address obstacles to reform and improve government delivery. These units are working closely with the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Commission, Invest SA, and the Ease of Doing Business Task Team to remove impediments to investment and growth and ensure that government demonstrates visible progress quickly. With an efficient and capable machinery now in place at the center of government, we will focus on the most urgent reforms and intervene where necessary to ensure implementation. We find, as South Africans ourselves, at a decisive moment in our history. It is a time of great difficulty and doubt, but also a time laden with great opportunities. Over the last 2 years, we have worked together to build a foundation for progress. Now is the time to build on that foundation, to unite, to work, and to persevere. We will not surrender our future to doubt or despair or division or to those who are permanently negative to the work that is being done to improve the lives of our people. We will continue with our onward march to improve the lives of our people. We will embrace change. We will cherish life. We will fear nothing. As we do so, we will recall the inspired lyrics of one of South Africa's most treasured musicians, Ubaba Joseph Shabalala, the founder of Ladysmith Black Mambazo, whose passing we mourn this week. Ubaba Joseph Shabalala wrote, but he wrote in a different era, and his words still ring true. And he wrote, open quotes, "We face high mountains, must cross rough seas. We must make our place in history and live with dignity. As we climb to reach our destiny, a new age has begun." I thank you.
Thank you very much, I take this opportunity to thank the President for an inspiring address. Members and guests should please remain at their places until the procession and the members of the judiciary have left the chamber. The guests in the gallery should remain seated until ushers indicate that the doors are open. The procession led by the acting sergeant at arms and the usher will leave the chamber in the following order: the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the President, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the Deputy President, the Acting Secretary to Parliament. That, honorable members, concludes the business for the day. The joint sitting is now adjourned.
Unity, 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 makavani, ikesha. Unity, unity, ikesha. Pagama, pagama, ikesha. Pagama, pagama, ikesha. Unity, unity, ikesha. Unity, unity, ikesha. Pagama, pagama, ikesha.